do it. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Do it. Give it to me, Daryl. Do it. Do it. I'll make my bag. Do it.
Episode 93 of the Cinema. We are back, man, with yet another episode. And what are we on? The to 100.
We just blew a tire. Well, guess we're stuck at old episode 93 until we can find ourselves a toe.
We are back, man. It has been two of the standard Gregorian weeks since you last heard an episode of Cinnamon, man.
And Gregor ruined it for everybody.
Gregor, yeah, man. What a guy, man. Just giving us those 12-month days in some sort of semblance with the sun, stars, and the moon. We don't know, but shout out to that guy wherever you are. I'm sure you're listening. We're back with another episode of the podcast.
He did.
Oh, he did.
You did.
Well, this is going to be an episode, and it's I, your boy C, one half of the Tasty Two Cinema. I'm joined as always by the flavorful, the salt and pepper himself, Mr. Douglas Davison. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm alive. I have made it by the skin of my teeth. I am here.
Well, better by the skin of your teeth than the hairs on your chinny chin chin.
Right now, I want to listen to Green Jelly.
Yeah.
For those of you who are old enough to remember Green Jelly,
that is
and the soundtrack
that
they made for the Carnage Nintendo video game. Nintendo, if I remember right.
Shout out to Nintendo. That creator still alive, by the way. Yeah, man, we're at another episode, sir. Well, we will begin like we always do. In the intervening days, as Fantastic Fest has wound itself down, or is winding itself down, sir. What have you seen recently?
Well, one of those films we're going to talk about, we ended up doing a double blind, so I'm going to wait on that one. One I want to absolutely mention, it has been picked up by Wellgo and the streamer Hiya already. It's a film called 1%er. This is a movie directed by, and I hope I get this right, Yudai Yamaguchi. He is the director of a movie from like 2000 called Versus, featuring a guy by the name of Tak Sakaguchi. And Tak has he has an enormous fan base. And Versus was one of the big films that he did. It's a bit of a cult classic. It got a restoration from Arrow a few years ago. It's pretty great. Check it out if you haven't seen it. 1%er is sort of a meta movie. All right. The premise of it is that Tak plays a guy by the name of Takamura Toshiro, who is an actor / stuntman, and he has created his own martial arts form called Wave, and he wants to make a movie that has what he calls trademark real action. So people are throwing real punches. We're using real equipment. We're not using wires. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. What's that series? We talked about it last episode with Mike Scott. Great episode that was. What's that series on that? And it's got some of the movies on Netflix that you love.
Rurouni Kenshin.
Yeah. This movie apparently takes the piss out of that series in a opening sequence. As I am not familiar with it, I did not catch the joke there. But he wants to make this movie, but despite having had a big hit so many years ago, he's not been able to really do much with it. But he finally decides, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being treated like a joke. I want to make this movie. He's told about this island that he can go to. It's remote, no cell service, no this, no that, no whatever. It should be perfect for his movie. Why don't you go scout it and check it out? He does, and he finds himself stuck between warring Yakuza. And he goes, yes.
I love the premise of this movie already.
Oh, he beats the shit out of everybody because he's like, I'm going to record this and here's my movie.
Yeah.
And so we're watching it as it all goes down. The fight direction is by Kensuke Samura, who is the director of Bad City and Hydra. He's also the action director on the two Baby Assassins films and quite a bit of other stuff. So the action here is great in terms of the direction and choreography. Tak is a fantastic martial artist all by himself, so that's great. And the story, it's maybe not, yeah, it's 85 minutes. You get right into this shit. And it's a fun little meta thing, and the fight sequences just so happen to knock your balls off. So enjoy yourself there.
Oh
Another
wow.
movie that I saw that is now my number two film, I think, of the year. If I remember right, it's either two or three. It's
Spoiler.
by director Kim Ji-won. It's a movie called Cobweb.
Hmm.
When I first heard Cobweb, I thought it was the horror movie that came out about a month or so ago. It's getting rave reviews, and I was like, it makes sense to be screening at Fantastic Fest. But then I learned that it's got Song Kang Ho and a number of other individuals that I know from other features, and I went, wait a minute. And Kim Ji Won, the director of this, he did I Saw the Devil, which I'm too much of a chicken shit to check out, but I've heard amazing
Hmm.
things on. And he did The Good, the Bad, the Weird, which I've seen part of
Hmm.
and need to revisit. But for those of you that don't recognize why Song Kang Ho might be a name you'd recognize, we're talking Parasite, Snowpiercer, Memories of a
Memories
Murder,
of
The
Murder.
Host, Lady Vengeance, Thirst, Broker, let's see, Joint Security Area, Good, the Bad, the Weird. So basically, he's made nothing anybody has ever seen before. He's not very good.
Oh,
He
she's
works with
terrible.
horrible directors. But this is a film where he gets to play a director in 1970s Korea who has finished making his latest feature, but he wakes from a dream and goes, "No, I can turn it into a masterpiece." And he is trying to find a way to just shoot over 2 days the end of his movie.
Hmm.
Except he's got to get it past the censors in Korea because again it's 1970s. Got to get
Hmm.
past the censors. He's got to get permission from his studio. He's got to get his cast back. So we see some of the movie that he's shooting. That's in black and white. And then we see the movie Cobweb in color. And it sort of jumps back and forth between these things as they're shooting some stuff, and we get to watch it as it does that. But then the colorized stuff, there's a really interesting exploration of the creative process. There's an interesting exploration of what I would call simply imposter syndrome, a number of other things. It's fucking funny. It's sad. It is a little over 2 hours. I want to watch it again. And I haven't said that about a lot of movies that are over 2 hours this year. In fact, Crystal was able to watch most of this with me until Preston decided, oh, I'm almost three. I'm going to be sad and wake up in the middle of the night. So he interrupted part of it, but Crystal and I were talking about something at the beginning, the very beginning of the movie, and we each got two different reads on what happened, two different
Hmm.
perspectives completely. And so that's part of why I want to go back and watch it, because it's so much about perspective and how we read this. So that is another movie that I absolutely recommend. I do not yet know when it's being released in the States, but check it out if you can find it. And then my last one that I'm going to talk about for right now from Fantastic Fest is The Last Stop in Yuma County. This is a feature film debut from, I believe it's Francis Galuppi. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Francis Galuppi. It stars Jim Cummings, Jocelyn Donahue, Richard Brake, Nicholas Logan, Faison Love, Michael Abbott Jr., Gene Jones, Robert Bartlett, Sierra McCormick, Connor Piallo, and several others. Sam Huntington's in this. Barbara Crampton's in this. Even if you don't know them by name, if you saw them appear on screen, you go, fuck, I know them. Because like Robin Bartlett, she popped up and I went, I know you. Gene Jones, the same thing. Didn't know their names. Premise of it is that there is a gas station in Yuma County and it is out of gas. Nothing. And there's a restaurant right next door to it. People keep showing up to get gas because they're the only station for 100 miles and they need gas. But there's no gas to be found. They keep being told gas is coming, hang out at the restaurant. I'll let you know when they show up. Except two of the people that show up have recently robbed a bank and are wanted by the police. They need to get the fuck out of here, and they don't care what they have to do to get the fuck out of there.
Wait a minute, they robbed a bank without having a full tank of gas?
We don't know in relation to where the robbery took place to where they are. We only know that it's been on the news and been in the papers. So
Okay.
there's been time.
Okay.
And so they're trying to get the fuck on the road. I think they're headed to Mexico, if I remember correctly, but
As
it's
you
a little
do.
unclear about where they are. a lot of what Francis does in this movie. You can't. It's a neo western, except we don't really know what time period it's set in, based on the clothes, based on the uniforms that the police that the people at the restaurant are wearing. Sort of hard to say if they're stuck in an era or just trying to catch a vibe. We don't know from the cars if it's just because some folks are down on their luck or whatever it is, or the area that they live in, that's the kind of vehicles that they're driving. Nobody
Mhm.
seems to have cell phones or any of that kind of stuff, so who knows? But tensions rise. There's no AC in the restaurants. Of course, the heat's making things worse. It'll have you on the edge of your seat. But what's great is that once those tensions flare up, it's not like boom, boom, boom. Leonard Elmore's had his way, and Elmore Leonard, excuse me, has had his way, and things are over in 5 seconds. No, the movie keeps going,
Mm.
and it gets worse. So if you get the chance to check this out, I really, really enjoyed this film. Highly recommend it. The Last Stop in Yuma County. Now, the last film that I saw that I do want to recommend, I did cover it for Fantastic Fest. You saw it as well. We were at the same screening. You're sitting in the back row, which turned into some weird racial thing, but apparently you guys had a great seat.
Damn did. And damn did.
Edwards, the creator. Which your review as of this recording has just gone live. I know because I have just scheduled it on the NCFCA, and the much beloved Rogue One, much beloved.
Hell yeah, man. People
Maybe
love Rogue
by
One.
that half, maybe by that half of the cinnamon. Sure, it is much beloved by that half of the cinnamon. I
Yes,
believe we
all
have. I
normal
believe we have
people
enough,
love that movie.
and they're allowed to. They're allowed to. Good on you. Wish I saw what you saw. But the creator is probably the first film since Monsters that I've liked by Gareth Edwards.
Mhm.
And I do agree that there are, in terms of the script, there are some derivative aspects of it. But in terms of the theme of the film, the philosophy of the film, the cinematography, the special effects, and a number of other things, it won me the fuck over. Like I
Mhm.
found the emotion in the moment. So even when I went, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, but where the emotions needed to be, it got me there. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the creator, it is in theaters probably by the time this releases.
It's in theaters today. So yeah, it'll be in
Yeah, there
theaters
we
by the
go.
time it
There we go. There
releases.
we go. Basically, there has been a war between humans and robots. Robots that take the form of artificial intelligence, the simulants, and I forget what the third form is. But humans and them. And war's broken out, and the humans are more or less represented by America, and the AI is represented by New Asia. And a former intelligence officer is pulled out of retirement because the US government says, you have information from your past that is useful to us. We can stop this war with your help. We'll give you something in return, but you do what we need. We'll give you that thing. War is over. Humans win the day. No more AI. And he goes, sure. But things are not always what they seem.
Mm.
And the story plays out from there. I will say right now that I did not know anything about this movie going in. Thanks to Rogue One and Godzilla, I was not a huge Edwards fan. And while I wanted to check out the trailer, I just didn't. So I went in pretty blind and therefore was possibly more surprised than others by what the film was about and how it executed it. And having now seen it and knowing what it's about, I think this would be a phenomenal double feature with Spike Lee's Da Five Bloods. And I want to
Oh,
have a conversation about those two movies together when we can do it without worrying about spoilers.
I thought you were going to say a double feature with Spike Lee's Rogue One, and I was going to be very confused as to what you were talking about there.
I don't
Uh,
think has he made a Rogue One?
I don't think he has, but I will do my best to track down Spike Lee to see what he thinks of Gareth Edwards.
I
Rogue
mean,
One.
you're going to school, right? And I forget, is it a New York based school or is it an LA based school?
It's UCLA, man.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. I won't ask
Yeah,
what.
yeah, no,
Yeah, no.
not my California school-based ass. It'd have to be NYU. Yeah, I thought The Creator was an okay movie. I was not as won over as you were by it. Um, and a large part of that is I have finally made up my mind that John David Washington is not a good actor. He just does not do it for me at all. I've given this man multiple chances, multiple choices.
Did he just disappoint you again?
No, my quarterback just threw an interception. That man just caused me very much disappointment and minus 2 points. Yeah, in three different leagues. I it's that like it drags the whole thing down for me,
Okay.
honestly. It's just I have in the six movies I've seen him in, it's just never any chemistry with any of his leads is what I've seen. And I think that that his lack of chemistry with Gemma Chan's character, which ends up being, like I said in my review, kind of his narrative thrust throughout the whole thing, because there is no chemistry there. It kind of just cheapens his story for me,
Oh,
for his part of his narrative arc. Everything else I love about the movie. The young lady Madeline, I forgot what her name is, Madeline something something. She is doing the work of two people because John David Washington did not show up to play, but she is instantly charming and lovable all to hell. And she steals pretty much every scene from him and every time they're paired together. I loved everything about her. I think Evers's direction was lovely. Practical effects were great. It seems like they've been doing for the last maybe 2 years, where they put it 2021, maybe for the last 1 year. Sneaky marketing at sports events. They will dress up some random person and it's almost always a baseball game as a character from whatever it is they're promoting, and then just put him in the stands. So I think maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, there were people dressed up as the robots just sitting in the stands at baseball games. And everyone's like, "Oh, what the Ken Watanabe type with the very intricate makeup and all that kind of stuff." And it just lends to that practical realism. And I think that because it does such a good job being practical, it sucks you into that world, and it makes the urgency that much more urgent throughout the movie. Allison Janney in a interesting turn that I think playing a little something different than her normal wheelhouse. I thought was incredibly interesting. Overall, I think it is a good, not great science fiction movie.
before I forget, because if I remember right, yeah, did you see Lou by any chance came out last year? That was
No,
last year?
not.
Okay. I was just curious because she, Allison Janney, Journey Smollett, Logan Marshall Green, a couple others, was basically Allison Janney as a retrieval expert,
Okay.
retired.
All
It,
right.
it streamed it streamed on Netflix. I know some folks reviewed it. I have not had a chance to see it. It was Allison Janney doing something different.
Give
So I was
me
curious.
Allison Janney doing old woman. And we've had this resurgence of old men in action, but we have not gotten, besides Michelle Yeoh, old woman in action. And I guess if you, depending on what you consider old, Ming Na Wen, but they've both been doing it forever anyways. But we need some old women in action. Give me Allison Janney getting fucking grimy in something, starring in the movie, and I will buy 3 tickets for it because I'm all about it. But what
Well, if you pay your monthly service, go boot up Lou and we're done here. The game is depressing already. Watch Lou.
it just kicked off and we're already throwing interceptions all over the place. This is not what I signed up for. I'm trying to win money. Yeah, I thought it was good, not great. I do plan on. There's a couple things I'm a little bit iffy about, so I do plan on going to see it one more time just to quell a couple of questions that I had in my head.
Well, if you since you've seen it in the theater, and by the way, for those of you that are feeling comfortable going to the theater, it is absolutely worth seeing in the theater. We were lucky enough to see it in IMAX. I do think that helped with some of the scale of what Edwards was going for. Seeing it in the theater in a good theater, I don't think IMAX is necessary, but certainly IMAX will have enhanced picture and sound, so that of course
It can
helps with the
never
environment.
hurt.
It does not hurt, unless they've got the balance wrong, and I've had that happen at RPX. My ears were rattling the whole time. But
Depending on the
the
movie, I'd be okay
creator
with that.
the creator is already on Disney's FYC page, so it will be available for your consideration if you don't want to have to go back to the theater.
Oh,
Oh
that
yeah,
changes things.
I don't know about others, but someone pointed it out, so I haven't looked into that. But Disney has everything, including Bike Rider, Wish. I think Bike Rider and Wish are the only two on their FYC page that I haven't seen of their movies.
Hope sold
But
and
like Haunting
sold.
in Venice and I forget what else that just came out is on there.
All right then. All right
Yeah.
then. Right on. Right on. Yeah. I went back a little ways as I prepped for the final brackets of Paprika. We're kicking off the next year with the A24 bracket. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I was
A24 bracket, there's only one best movie. It's Swiss Army Man. There, done. You don't
there
need
you
to
go.
do it. Do
I'd
something else.
hate to tell you
Swiss
so.
Army Man.
Swiss Army Man did not make the cut for the
Fuck
A.
you.
I think it was like because we know we do brackets of 16. I think it was
Yeah.
like 18 or something like that. It just barely missed out on the cut.
What you
So
put Pearl or X? I haven't seen X
I
yet.
did. I put Pearl. Pearl is the far better movie than X. And also I will be seeing X in theaters again. Here in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Pearl definitely deserves to be on that list. Number one, I'm not going to spoil that, but I watched a couple of
Mia Goth deserves to be on the list. Pearl, not above Swiss Army Man, sir.
Pearl's definitely. I'm
They
about to go
they
look at my.
cut they cut they start a fire with farts. They found water using a corpse's erection. Come
Oh,
on, it's
you know
art.
what? I do have them very close in my A24 rankings, by the way. Pearl and Swiss Army Man. Strangely enough, Green Knight I have as the very last seed on the list, not in the top seeds.
Is that a joke? Because he comes on his hand or her hand. Is it a joke?
No, stop
Which
that.
seed it was?
Stop that.
What?
Stop that.
Just checking.
I've watched a couple of movies that I'd never seen before, and a couple that did not make the list, but I thought were still damn interesting. Did you ever see Remember?
I don't know if I've ever
Christopher
heard of it.
Plummer. Christopher Plummer as an Auschwitz survivor, and Martin Landau as his partner is the only other Auschwitz survivor. He comes to they are in an old assisted living home. Martin Landau recognizes him. He's incapacitated in a wheelchair, and we find out that Christopher Plummer's character pledges to Landau, when my wife dies, I'm going to find the German fuck who killed our families in Auschwitz. But Christopher Plummer has dementia. So you're getting a bit of a revenge flick with the Memento type twist to it.
Wow.
And the setup is Martin Landau's narrowed it down to, we know he escaped to the States, he changed his name to this, and there's only 4 people who could have been in the area at this time with this name or that fit this age bracket. So Plummer in his dementia has to, traverse parts of the US and Canada, going to look for and suss out which one of these dudes was the Nazi who was responsible for the death of their families. And it is a good movie until the last 10 minutes. And then it's a great movie when it gets you with that twist. And then it gives you that like last 45-second little ha at the very end. And I was like, oh, this movie is good. This movie is real good. Christopher Plummer doing great work. Martin Landau doing great work. Henry Czerny playing Christopher Plummer's son doesn't get a lot to do, but it is absolutely.
He's always great to watch, though.
He's always great to watch. Ever since the first Mission Impossible, Mike Czerny's there. I'm there. I was a big fan of everything I saw in this movie. I think it's fairly quick, like maybe 94 minutes. So it's, you get in, you get a great story, you get out, man. I loved every bit of this. Directed by Adam Egoin, director I'm not familiar with, but I want to check out more of what he's done.
The movie is streaming on Max right now, as well as a couple other places, in addition to places to rent. I just added it to my Letterboxd and my Max watch list
Boxed.
separately. And he's got a movie coming out with I just lost her name. Son of a Amanda Seyfried, coming out later this year. That's apparently getting some buzz. I forget the name of it.
Well,
I
there
will look
you
it up in just a moment because the story is terrible.
go.
I'm a
Okay.
professional.
We're supposed to be, but we are not. So the second movie that I watched,
Hold on, real quick. Seven Veils.
you said Seven Veils.
Seven Veils.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Coming out this year. 107 minutes. I do not know its release date, but people have seen it.
All right, 100. This dude tells a story, gets in, and yes, gets in and gets the fuck out. I like this guy's runtime. The second movie that I saw, another A24 that did not make the list, a movie I'm pretty sure you've seen, Slow West.
Hmm.
Um, Magneto, Michael Fassbender, and Nightcrawler, Cody Schmidt McPhee. Um,
Oh, not
are
the good, not the good Nightcrawler.
not Alan Cumming, no, Cody Schmidt McPhee. It is about some Scots, um, Scottish people in Scotland. Then Cody Smith McPhee's character is in love with a young woman. His uncle has a disagreement with this young woman's father. An accidental murder happens. They flee to America, this young woman and her dad, while Cody Schmidt McPhee, smitten with love, follows and tries to traverse the West looking for her, where he meets Michael Fassbender, a notorious bandito, who's like, you won't make it a week out here unless you have someone to teach you the ways, quote unquote, for the most part.
And
And
then
then
he
word,
makes him a rope.
and then he makes him. I was telling
Sorry, that is
Leslie,
Cody Schmidt McPhee.
yeah, I was telling Leslie about that when we were watching the movie. I was like, let me tell you what rope and cow guts will get you. But we find out there's a bounty on this Scottish daughter and father's head, and it's driving out various denizens as the word spreads. Our main denizen being Ben Mendelsohn. Um, so it was just a good, literally slow western. It's paced quite deliberately, but for only 84 minutes, quick runtime. But it's a very relaxed. Like we're just gonna sweeping vista shots. Like it doesn't hurry up. It just kind of takes its time and lets the
It's
plot
slow
develop.
as it goes west,
It's slow
you
as
might
it
say.
goes west. You could say that, yes,
Okay.
until it's not slow anymore into that final really big shootout scene at the very end. And I saw somebody in the letterbox review said this is Wes Anderson mixed with Quentin Tarantino. And that's exactly what it is, because you get a lot of great Anderson-y type shots, and then things ramp up quickly to that Tarantino type action. I was a big fan of this movie, man. I thought it was pretty fucking dope. Not as good as Remember, but if you're looking for something else, also on HBO Max,
Just
Slow
added it.
West. There you go. So boom, there you go. Done, done.
Right on. Anything else you have seen that you want to share with us, or
No,
are you ready to move on?
I think three is enough.
All right.
Yes, let us move on with the move on, sir. What are we here to talk
Uh,
about today?
well, before we get into that, just to let everybody know, if you are interested in any of the movies that I mentioned, full reviews from Fantastic Fest are available on elementsmadness.com, and they are all spoiler free. So you'll learn about them, and I'll talk about them without learning like who lives, who dies, who survives, who turns into an AI, any of that kind of nonsense. So today we are here to talk about fantasy films. These can
Yes.
be everything from Coraline and Curse of the Black Pearl, Nightmare Before Christmas, Onward, House, Batman, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Sorry to Bother You, which is fucking dope as shit, Mandy, Love and Monsters, like Freaky, Mulan. Well, yeah, I guess Mulan because it's wushu. But we've also got Nosferatu and basically everything that started off cinema when it first began, because you have the cabbage fairies and everything else. It's so amazing. Quick side note, to hear people talk about what movies are like today with absolutely no cinema history whatsoever, as if when movies started they were just some sort of artsy thing and they were always high end and always this. It's like, sir and or madam, or however, whatever, uh when people started making movies, they were mostly, if not half naked, and usually on something, and or pretending to be something. Like seriously, there was nothing high. It was just we can record moving pictures, so let's get some bodies moving. The
Yeah,
actual history of cinema begins not necessarily with smut, but
unfortunately.
but pornography in the sense of naked people being naked, and then it turned into fairy tales and other stories. I forget the name of the movie. It's been bugging me all day, and I haven't had 2 fucking minutes to rub together to look at it. It's streaming on. Are we sponsored by Max this episode?
Apparently, we are.
But the film with where the missile goes into the moon's eye,
A trip to
that
the moon?
there you go. See, brain not working. Um, so
Moon. The moon's in there. Something
yeah,
moon.
yeah.
They take
Someone
a
takes
trip to the
they pack
moon.
bags and they ticket and moon. But anyway, but all of these early films, they weren't high end. They were all fucking entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and movies go through waves, and now we exist in a period where we've got high art and we've got entertainment. And if we just judge the quality of something on how many things people buy tickets for, that's not a marker for how good it is, just how popular it is. Good does not equal popular, as evident by the fact that we have whole boutiques that release stuff on home video where people go, who the fuck is watching this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're going to talk about fantasy today, because it's not only the beginning of cinema, but it's also an important part of cinema. And there's tons of things that go into it. Now, my choices for this, I particularly because we're on the road to 100, and
The road.
we got back on the road. We got that flat fixed. There's some films that I've talked about quite a bit. There's some that I haven't talked about all that much over the years. When we did this, 2 films immediately popped to mind. And when I was looking at that sort of what counts as fantasy, I saw one pop up and I went, fuck it. It's one of my favorite movies that has ever been made. It is probably my first toe dip into horror. And it explains why I get excited about the horror films that today, even, I talk about as being excited for. Do you know that there's a horror comedy coming out called It's a Wonderful Knife?
Yes.
Heard about it yesterday. Can't fucking wait.
Did you hear about the Christmassy type thing? Have you heard about this Silent Night?
Yes.
Yeah, can't
Yes.
wait.
With
Can't wait. Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally silent movie.
Mm-hmm.
I am intrigued.
No, not totally silent, just no dialogue. There's a difference there.
Well, yeah. There's sound. There's
Yeah.
sound. Obviously, yeah. There's score and sound, but no dialogue.
Yes.
I am fascinated in the execution of this.
I'm fascinated if they can keep this premise up for a full runtime. Can't wait. Can't wait.
You know, we had silent films before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and you know what, to a degree, the first film I'm going to mention, it gets its inspiration from the era of silent movies, from the era of vaudeville, from the era of lowbrow comedy and high fantasism. It's Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness, 1992. I fucking love this movie. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
They have taken this movie and turned it into, I don't think it so much ruined the Evil Dead series, because it starts off as a serious horror film and then turns into Army of Darkness. I don't think it ruined it so much as opened up what it could be, because when you look at it from the premise of Ashley J. Williams was just going on a fucking camping trip with his girlfriend, his best friend, and his sister, and then he ends up in the Middle Ages. After a certain point, if you're not like what's her name in the Scream series, just like, oh, you've got to be another fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Really? So that's what I love about this, is Ash is like, God, fuck, I don't wanna. Just stop.
Just wants to go back to the S mark.
Yeah, and you know, if you believe Ash himself, Mr. Campbell, the appropriate ending, he doesn't get there. He
Yeah.
thinks the appropriate ending is the director's cut ending, where he ends up in the apocalypse. And there's a possibility there if you ever wanted to come back to the movies at some point. But this film is probably where I started getting interested in horror, in the sense that I always thought it had to be gross. I always thought it had to be traumatic. I didn't realize it could be funny.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it could have a sense of humor. And I have found horror that is scary, that is painful, that is traumatic, but also that I can handle. And this was my way in.
Well, there you go. There you go. A fantastical movie. Hail to the king, baby.
Yeah,
My first, I'm just going to go ahead and caveat. I think we all know the popularity of Lord of the Rings. That's why I didn't put it on my list. We all know. There's not going to be anyone to say, what about? We all know. Shut the fuck up. So my
they're fine.
first, they're
They're
fine.
fine.
They're films. I don't know. Pete
No,
Jackson's
that's
okay.
that's my actual opinion. I did
Oh,
not get into them. I'm so sorry.
oh well, that surprising no one.
I wanted to so badly.
Them shits are dope as all get out, man. I cannot wait to do a trilogy binge this November in a house that is set up to be like Bilbo Baggins' house. Me and 10 friends are going to do it for our friend's 40th birthday. And they've little rings hidden all throughout the house for us to find. It's
Like the person you're going with is going to be hiding them,
no,
or
the B&B we rented out hides little rings for the people who rent out for them to find.
that is adorable.
It is adorable. And we will be watching the animated Rankin and Bass Hobbit, and then we will be going through the trilogy, the Holy Trilogy.
Oh,
But fuck all that. We're not talking about Lord of the Rings today. My number one comes from 1986. It spawned one of the greatest phrases of all time in movies. There can be only one.
fuck you. Fuck you. You're doing this to me again.
The Highlander, baby. Uh, I told you earlier that I had four and couldn't narrow it down.
Mm-hmm.
Highlander was the one I was like, do I take it off the list? No, I can't take it off the list. I took Lord of the Rings off the list for Highlander. Partially because it was on Pluto TV a couple days ago. And I was like, you know what, man, this movie's always better than I give it credit for. Weird ass Christopher Lambert in a role that was made for his weird ass. I think this is what really introduced the world to Clancy Brown. And he has just given us gem after gem after gem where it was his coming out party. I don't know if he did anything before this, but it was his coming out to the world party. And he has continued to, where if not Highlander, we wouldn't have Mr. Crab, right? It is, it's a movie with a great premise of a bunch of immortals get the get the pull and the feel and the urge to all come together and do battle. And the only way to win is to separate one's head from one's shoulders. And it's just the
Like you do.
wildest, most 1980s coke fueled idea. And thank Jesus for cocaine, because I love everything about this movie. The effects are great. 116 minutes. Sean Connery is just swinging for the fences, camping it up. I love everything about this movie, man.
Did you know, by the way, that Clancy Brown voiced Raiden in an animated Mortal Kombat movie in '96?
Well, that brings it all full circle, considering that Christopher Lambert was Raiden in Mortal Kombat in 1995.
You know?
Funny how funny old world, ain't it? Yeah, good stuff there. Man, this movie's the dopest. What do you have on it, sir?
Well, that was actually my number two.
Uh
So, whatever.
huh.
I actually rewatched this movie last December, if I remember correctly, because it came out on 4K.
There can be
It
only
is
one.
fantastic to look at. It is, I think as I've gotten older and I become more susceptible to migraines, I become more photosensitive. So that one was a little bit like, oh fuck, maybe I shouldn't have done it since there's
Yeah,
lightning and
that
sparks
quickening gets
everywhere.
you. Yeah.
But it is still an incredibly fun movie. And watching it in '86 and then watching it now. And so by the time I saw it, I was probably 8 or so in '88. I saw this on home video, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So 88, '89. We rented this a ton of times. We knew who Sean Connery was in my house. It never dawned on me to question that he's Spanish by way of Egypt and he sounds Scottish. We're
Right.
gonna fucking go with it.
We're just gonna go with it. Ramirez.
but so much of the drama, so much of the wonder of it, and of course the unofficial soundtrack, which is
Queen.
a kind of magic by Queen. That album, short of one song, is the soundtrack to Highlander. The other one is One Vision from Iron Eagle, which is itself a fun movie, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
whole other conversation. But Highlander, it's still in the parlance of the day, it still slaps. It still
Slaps
slaps. The
viciously.
songs are incredible. It's grimy, it's gritty, it's gross. You get the sense of who the Kurgan is and how he's lived. Him being a
Again.
punk rocker when he used to be a Lord of Death, if you will, in whatever clan he existed in. Like he was somebody who was raised in the right environment to be like, you will die, you will rise again. Oh, fuck, he did. We hail to him now. Like, it
Yeah.
was great. And even though with Highlander 2, in trying to force a sequel, they changed some of that lore, I think the Renegade cut is better because of how they better make a sequel.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
It's not allowed on the in holy ground of this house.
it is in this one. But the first film though, it in all the films that have come since, and as a fan of the TV series, it does not get better than this film that Russell made. So I agree with everything you've said. And I'm not just saying that, it is actually number 2 on my list. You can go fuck yourself for stealing another one from me.
You're welcome.
2 episodes in a row.
You are welcome. And it's my goal to do that for the rest of this show. Rude. My second one, man, sticking in the 1980s. There is no better decade for coke fueled madness than the 1980s. 1981, directed by John Goddamn Borman. Excalibur. Oh man, listen. The shiniest armor to ever exist. It is, in my humble opinion, the best Arthurian adaptation that is, only by a small margin because Monty Python and Holy Grail exists. But Excalibur just gives you in 140 minutes, which feels like 9 hours, everything you want out of a fantastical medieval knights type movie. You got Sword and Stone, you've got the rise of Arthur and the Round Table, and Lancelot with Guinevere, and the downfall of Arthur, and all that encompasses Camelot and the surrounding lands due to the downfall, and that a resurgence after finding the Holy Grail. There is everything. This is short of its an epic type runtime. This is an epic type story, an epic told story. With Nigel Terry in there, Helen Mirren just looking deliciously wonderful as well. Gabriel Byrne, Patrick Stewart, man, is a who's who of cats before they had all the wrinkles. And I love everything about this movie, man. I love
Before they had all the wrinkles.
Liam Neeson, man. A Redgrave is in here. So Kieran Hines, aka Mance Rayder from Game of Thrones. There's a lot going on in this movie, and if Arthurian legend is your shit, then it's almost guaranteed that this is also going to be one of the movies that's for you. If you haven't checked this out yet, what are you doing with yourself?
I need to revisit it. It's been ages since I've seen it, and I'm not entirely sure I saw it at an age where I understood what the hell I was watching.
Mm-hmm. First time I watched it, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And then like maybe 10, 12 years passed, and I was like, oh, hold on, this is kind of fucking dope. Now I
I wonder
love
if I'll have the same reaction with Legend, because I saw enough of Legend to be like, that's some scary nonsense. I'm going somewhere else.
it.
But now I fucking love Tim Curry, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's interesting to see if it holds up in the same type way. I love me some Excalibur. Do yourself a favor, sir. Recheck that out at some point in your life.
Well, my last film is a movie that when you said, here's what we're going to talk about, I went, well, then I have to bring this movie up. I have to show it some love, not only because when you talk about fantasy, this is an adaptation. It's from 1980. I saw it many years after it had been released, simply because most likely by the time it was released, I was still gestating in that year. But it's got an incredible soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It's 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 an adaptation of a serial that, for all intents and purposes, could not be made in the same way today with the same cast because it would come across as racially insensitive and other things as it is. But because of when it was made, we get a cast that is incredibly, incredibly up to the task of making something so memorable that I'll even tell you right now, if you don't own this movie,
I didn't know Blazing Saddles was a fantasy.
hold on. Where are the white women at? I thought there was a great ad. I think it was Starbucks that it was like Starbucks was on Gene Wilder's character and goes, when it becomes fall, Starbucks pulls out, where are the white women at? Spice latte. But
Ridiculous.
Anyway, no, Arrow released a 4K restoration of this. It is fucking gorgeous in all the right ways. I know how you in particular are like, you know what, I want to see a movie how it was intended. And I get that, but sometimes you get a restoration that captures not only the vibe, but it cleans it up in such a way that it feels transcendent. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Hodges' Flash Gordon never looked so fucking good. Flash, he saved every motherfucking last one of us. This movie has Sam Jones as Flash, Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless.
Ming the
That's
Merciless.
what I'm talking about right there.
Yep.
Topple as Dr. Hans Zarkov. Timothy Dalton, Brian Blessed, who's the leader of the Wing people, Prince Volta.
Brian Blessed is my man.
Richard O'Brien has a minor role. He's one of Dalton's men, if I remember right. But there are so many things that as a kid freaked me the fuck out, but I loved the music and I loved the I knew it was fake just because of the staging of things, but I still couldn't help feel the tension and the reality of certain sequences. It absolutely captures the fantasy that there are some movies that I see now that when they try to do the same thing, I can tell who has seen this stuff and understands what it was going for, and who's just trying to make it without understanding where it came from.
Yeah, who saw it and who studied it.
Exactly. And this is a film that made today. You couldn't make it the same way. They tried to make it as a TV show, and it didn't entirely work, even though it was following more of the serial vibe, just where it began. But honestly, there's some things that are just too much lightning in a bottle. You try to recreate it, you try to redo it, and I don't think it works. I'm not sure that Flash Gordon made like this would work today without feeling like a one-to-one, much in the same way that I don't think you could recreate The Princess Bride, because that was such lightning in the bottle. That was such an ingenious approach to a book that is hard to adapt, that I just don't think you could do it. So this is why, out of the three, when you said fantasy, this was my immediate.
This thought never crossed my mind. I think you can't do it today because there's too much cynicism in the world. I think if you try to do it today with that, I'm not going to call it hokiness, but there's a fair amount of hokiness. It knew what it was. There between people that are like, "Oh, this shit sucks," and it did. I don't think it just wouldn't work. You either play it straight or you don't do it at all for fear of just it being laughed at the theaters, which is unfortunate. But good call on that. I put it on the 100 sci-fi list. I think I watched it in 2019 in order to prepare. It was the last time I saw it. So yeah, good call. Yes. I mean, it shouldn't be much of a surprise that my final pick is. It is also an adaptation of a poem from way back in the days.
Speaking of Seed.
Speaking of me, Sir Gawain and Green Knight. It is, of course, the Green Knight. I think I've said everything. If you want to hear me talk about this movie, there's something like 1,500 words on my review. So go read that shit over there. It goes into the podcast review. It still holds as my number one A24 movie. It would still hold up, having now seen more movies from the year of 2021. It still would be my number one pick. I love everything. Stop that, man. I love everything
doing anything
about this movie. It gets just it's the exact tone and vibe that I wanted it to be. Talking about Excalibur, I rewatched Excalibur the day before I saw The Green Knight for the first time because I just wanted to get into that Arthurian mode. It feel like Arthur, King Arthur shit was like, I feel like it was everywhere when I was a kid, and it just kind of disappeared. And we had that bad guy was no that was who did Arthur? Was that Ridley Scott or Guy Ritchie? That was Guy Ritchie who did yes with your boy from Sons of Anarchy as King Arthur.
Mine. I never watched Sons of Anarchy.
Oh,
Charlie something.
Charlie Hunnam as King
There you go.
Arthur. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
great, by the way.
he was in The Gentleman. He was great in The Gentleman.
That's like, yeah, they had him for King Arthur, and I was like, this is a horrible swing and miss. And he brought him back for the Gentleman, and I was wary, and I was like, okay, no, this is what you do Charlie Hunnam for, Guy Ritchie. I think he's used him in something. Is he in Ruse de Guerre that came out earlier this year?
I still haven't seen that, so I can't speak to it.
It wasn't my favorite on the list of Guy Ritchie. I was a little bit disappointed by that. But yeah, this The Green Knight is everything that I want it to be. Dev Patel is amazing in this, at least if I can. They're playing two different roles. Ralph Ineson, under a pound and a half of makeup, is killing it with the vocal work and still able to emote through all of that makeup. The eyes, everything's coming through the eyes, much like a Tom Hardy movie. What's up?
Also in The Creator.
Also, yes, also in The Creator. And walking out of the theater, I was listening to people, and they're like, I didn't know that was the guy from The Green Knight. Yes, it was the guy from The Green Knight, because that voice is unmistakable. Also in The Vivitch, if you want to keep on that A24 trend as well. Everything about this movie is damn near perfect for me. I love it all the way down to the score, cinematography, everything.
Do you have that in 4K? Does that fit the 4K?
Oh, absolutely. If it's the 4K rule, yeah. I bought it the day it hit 4K when I was down in Atlanta for the screening of Dune. I was like, visuals! And it has since become a Christmas Eve tradition. Watch Die Hard and then watch The Green Knight. Damn, I love this movie. So no surprise to anybody, but that's my third pick.
Right on. Well, then that leaves us straight into our what became a double blind challenge.
Double blind.
So by the time it became a double blind challenge, I'd already watched it. So it's kind of a half blind challenge in the sense that I watched this and I went, this sounds like, if at the time I thought you had seen this director's previous work, The Perfect Host. And I was mistaken, but I still went, I think you need to see this. I want to talk about this movie. This film is called What You Wish For. It is by director Nicholas Tomnay. The last film, What You Wish For, is 2023. His last film was 2010, The Perfect Host. Okay. With, what's his name? Niles. David Hyde Pierce. Couldn't think of his name.
Oh, salad.
Anyway, the premise of this film is Nick Stahl plays a young man. He's a chef. He's on the run because of debts owed. He goes to see a friend of his in out of the country, okay, in a Spanish-speaking country. Goes to visit his friend, and he ends up taking over his friend's identity, because if he can live someone else's life, then he's free of his own. Except this is one of those, as the title said, what you wish for. What if you get away from your life, but in assuming somebody else's, the responsibility that they had, that you didn't know about, that you couldn't possibly know about, suddenly becomes your burden to bear. How do you deal with that? And this is a film that went from, oh, well, this is interesting. Oh, okay. Well, that kind of sucks. Oh, just all the way through without giving away any spoilers whatsoever. This is like twist upon twist. As soon as you think you've got this movie figured out, it did something else to me. What did you think?
Let me tell you how much I love the movie Sin City. When when Nick Stahl
Carla Gugino is not in this.
Very unfortunate. Every movie she's in is unfortunate. She's not in is unfortunate. When Nick Stahl showed up on screen, I was like, I thought Nick Stahl was dead. And I was like, wait, no, that was just Sin City that I watched. That's what that was. I just hadn't seen this dude in so long. It was, first of all, it was just nice seeing him back on screen.
Mhm.
I
He's been working. He's been working.
Oh, okay, right on. Good for him. I guess I just have not caught any of it. I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. The first act is a little bit shaky until the inciting incident happens. And then I was like, oh, now things just got interesting. Um, but there's a couple things in that shaky first act that just really lays down what you need to know in order for things to be a little bit believable going on throughout the movie. And then once you're in for that ride, you are in for that ride, I think. And I enjoyed the fuck out of it from when that incident happens to the very last couple seconds. I was like, this shit is dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, intense.
When we talk about expectations, baggage when it comes to movies can absolutely ruin your experience. Just like how you're feeling at a time can ruin the experience. Daryl currently at the moment is feeling horrible, and it is ruining the experience of recording this podcast.
Come
when
on,
I
guys.
when I watched this, I had it in my head that he was a con man stealing someone's identity. So at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, so we're just immediately having him pretend to be somebody else. But wait, he seems to know this person, or is he just, it's been so long since they've seen each other that he's pretend? Like, I was like, when did this start? I had to go back and rewatch the beginning to realize that no, everything was on the up and up until.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of that, it makes it, one, it made the lead character a little bit more sympathetic at first, at the beginning. But then as it goes along, you really do start to feel the weight of it. And I wouldn't say despair personally, but weight, because we all make choices. We have to come to live with those choices. And instead of finding a way out, he's found a way in that he now has to go through.
It's the resignation at the end that really just ties it all in. Like this is my life now, I guess. And he thought he was out there pulling back in. It's so good, man. It's so good. It's I wouldn't have minded watching this in the theaters, man. This would have been like a good communal, like ooh, yeah, type experience.
I do not know how this played at Fantastic Fest, which is who I reviewed it for. I think, yeah, this did screen at Fantasia. I do not know if that, I don't remember, I should say, if that was its world premiere, but I can't imagine. Both of those are genre festivals. This is a genre picture.
Yep.
It's a thriller, but this is a genre picture. And audiences that go to a genre festival that get a film like this,
it's the perfect audience.
Yeah, that is exactly who you'd want to see this with. You talk about expectations, you talk about how you're feeling in that moment. It's only going to be amplified by the people around you. And I was sitting by myself watching this, and I was going for a couple of things. And I was trying to figure stuff out. And there was one moment where I was going, no, here's what you say. Here is what you say.
Yeah.
No, you idiot. You say this instead. And just that one thing would have alleviated a couple of other what have you. But it's beautiful that he doesn't, because he's making this shit up as he goes along.
Right.
And that is part of what adds to the tension. So I'm so glad to hear that you enjoyed it. Because it is so rare that I make recommendations that you enjoy.
Yeah. Let's end this show on a good note. Keep on with the good suggestions.
Yes, I'll do my best. As of right now, the studio, and I think this is through the director, is Evergreen Avenue. I do not know of any wider release. If I find out about one, I will do my best to share it, because this is absolutely worth seeing. Yes, I agree with you. Nick Stahl, it's great seeing him on screen. He plays a lot of complex roles, a lot of complex situations in this. And then an actor who he plays with, I have not seen before. She's apparently done 2 other projects before this. Tamsin Topolsky.
The one that's managing, or like the
She's
site
the
supervisor.
on-set. Yeah, she's the on-scene manager.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's great.
Hmm.
There's a couple of moments where I'm like, hmm, with
Delightfully bitchy.
oh yes, and not in an insulting, misogynistic way, like
Hmm.
in it's a compliment. It
Yeah.
is a compliment.
Yes.
This is a power position, and you know she can get her hands dirty.
Yeah.
So
You're watching, he's like, ooh, I hate her. I love her.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So absolutely recommend this film. I've got a spoiler-free review if you want to learn more about it up on Elements of Madness. Unless Daryl decides to write this up, this is where you can find out his opinions on it. But it is again What You Wish For by Nicholas Tomney.
Yeah. And there we go, man. That's it. Boom. We're in and out. And right about that 60-minute mark. Goddamn professionals. Uh
Ooh, oh man, I'm sorry. I can come up with more stuff. I
Stop.
can come up with more stuff. Hold
We're
on.
good.
I watched two
Hey,
Hong Kong.
hey,
Wait,
hey, you get out of here. You get out of here.
don't hit the button. Wait, don't go away. I got Hong Kong cinema movies to talk about. Wait, you don't like those? I can find some other things. No. Yeah,
We'll
okay,
be
we
back
got
in 2 of the weeks. We'll have a guest next time we come back, right?
if things go to plan, if she doesn't have a baseball game to go to, I believe we're talking sports with Danielle Solzman.
So see you at the movies. So we'll be back in 2 of the weeks, man, with more on the road to 100 right here on Pop Reading. So then you all take it easy and have a good one.
Have a good one. Watch more movies.